Traffic police in the Western Cape impounded 34 vehicles of the app-based transportation network Uber. According to the City of Cape Town, the service's drivers don't have the right permits to operate in the province. Now, Uber has also recently come under fire for its New Year's price surge policy, which has resulted in scores of people still taking to social media today to complain about the night's expensive transportation fees. But Uber fans have since hit back at critics of the network, saying customers should understand the pricing model of this taxi company that has radically changed the way the world commutes. Now, to talk to us about these issues, we are joined in the studio by the General Manager of Uber Johannesburg, Alon Litz. Very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much for having me.
Let's start with the City of Cape Town. The city says you don't have the permits to operate within its limits. Do you need permits as Uber to operate anywhere else in the world?
So it's a good question. Uber's not a transportation provider. We're a technology company. We don't employ the drivers and we don't own the vehicles. So Uber as a company does not need any permits to operate. That being said, we do partner with licensed drivers who obtain the necessary permits. What's very important in Cape Town and across South Africa, all drivers have something called a professional driver's permit. In order to qualify for that, you need to have a driver's license and a clean driving history. In addition to that, we complete our own additional criminal background checks, which goes over and above what's required from a regulatory perspective. And what we've found, despite a claim that to get a PDP, you can't have a criminal background, we're finding that 15 to 20% of drivers with PDPs actually have criminal backgrounds. So we actually feel we're going above and beyond when it comes to screening drivers.
Is this with a sort of background of what's happened elsewhere in the world, where you've had sexual assaults, rapes and the like happening within your network?
So this is something that we've been doing in South Africa since early 2014. So it's definitely not in reaction to what's been happening overseas. That being said, we're always looking at ways to innovate, always looking at ways to ensure that Uber's even safer. We already feel that we're the gold standard when it comes to safety in South Africa. When you book a trip using the application, you get a picture of your driver, you see the car that he's driving, his name, his number plate, and his contact details.
Yeah.
So you know exactly whose car you're getting into before you actually start the trip. You can also share that information with your friends and family. So with Uber, you're actually never traveling alone. Someone can always be watching.
Now, we've got some complaints, or one or two complaints, from some of our viewers, some of social media. I want us to have a look at it and get a response from you. This one from Andreas Hauke. I'm sure you've seen it. The police just stopped my Uber driver here in Cape Town, told me to get out of the vehicle. Police said the drivers have no permits, operating illegally. They told the police I'm a friend of his, driving around, and told the police the truth that I'm using the Uber app service. He says he's a big fan of Uber, but needs a proper explanation why and how something like this can happen. He was stranded in the middle of the night and treated like a criminal by the police by using what he believes is a safe and legal app. What's your response to that and others who found themselves in similar situations?
So unfortunately, it seems to be a case of, well, first of all, regulation lagging innovation, and regulation really standing in the way of job creation and empowerment. We've been engaging with the City of Cape Town, and we have continued to engage right up until today to try to find a legal route to licensing for all partner drivers in Cape Town. They seem to be giving drivers a runaround when they apply for licenses. We sent through a business case which stipulates the requirements that owner drivers are meant to complete to apply for a meter taxi license. I think you pretty much need a team of 20 consultants to complete this business case. And what it seems that the city seems to be favoring the large fleet operators who have additional resources and can afford to employ consultants, and are trying to block out really owner drivers and entrepreneurs from entering the Cape Town market. And it just makes no sense during the busy December period in Cape Town when there's such a huge opportunity to create jobs and for drivers to earn more. So your issue is really with the City of Cape Town as a business, and at the moment you're not the only business who seem to be having issues in Cape Town with red tape. But let's move on and talk about what happened on New Year's evening, the situation that you found yourself in on New Year's night, and why do you think many people didn't understand or weren't aware of the sort of price surge policy
that you guys were practicing?
Yeah. So before I answer that, I want to just touch on how we communicated prior to New Year's Eve. So across all South African cities, we sent an email out to all Uber users notifying them that dynamic pricing would be in place and that pricing would be higher. We actually went as far as telling them that they should actually make alternate plans. If you can, don't use Uber. And I think that's quite unusual. I don't think there are many companies that email their users and tell them, listen, don't use our service, we're going to be expensive.
Yeah.
We knew that demand was going to be insane. And what dynamic pricing does, it allows Uber to be reliable. So our view is we'd rather let someone open up the application and see cars available and then have the option to take a ride. We by no means hide the fact that prices are higher. If they never saw the email, we had a splash screen appear in the application, which notified them that pricing was going to be higher. Yeah. If dynamic pricing was in effect at the time of the trip, a big multiplier would appear on the application. So for example, a big 4 times. If pricing was above 2 times, users would actually have to enter that multiple in the application before requesting a trip.
If someone has an Uber complaint, take us through the process. Where do they go to get help?
So we love receiving feedback. Feedback helps us improve. The easiest way is probably to reply to your receipt that you get sent at the end of the trip. Mm-hmm. If you can't find that receipt, you can send an email to one of our support email addresses. For Joburg, it's supportjoburg@uber.com. Cape Town is supportcapetown@uber.com, and Durban, supportdurban@uber.com.
Well, thank you for joining us. That's the General Manager of Uber Johannesburg, Alon Litz. Thank you for joining us and clearing up the confusion. There seems to be quite a bit doing the rounds. And I think in the age of social media, there's also a lot of false reporting that happens. But thank you for coming in and clearing it up for us.